Gentleman yields back. Mr. Doggett, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, first I would say I am appreciative for your setting the original bill and working with me and Mr. Johnson. It is a narrowly drawn bill. It's not been my intention to raise this broader issue in connection with this bill. Having made that clear in our discussion for presenting the bill today, I do want to say that, as you might expect, I very strongly support the idea of the study that Ms. Chu is advancing. Indeed, I first offered amendments in this committee before the Medicare Part D program was adopted in 2003 to call for negotiation. I think the Veterans Administration provides an ample example of where negotiation can work. And one of those who recognized the advantages of bidding as would be done on negotiation is President Donald J. Trump. He specifically said that there were reports that we could save as much as $300 billion a year by using competitive bidding, by doing negotiation, as Ms. Chu has suggested in the study. I think the fear of a study is not that it might lead us astray, but that it will demonstrate that here's one that by chance President Trump is correct on. Unfortunately, since making that statement and since making other statements about the widespread amount of price gouging that is occurring on prescription drugs, he turned his entire agenda over to some of the people that have been doing the price gouging, both at the Department of Health and Human Services and at the Office of Management and Budget. And they have now come up with a new approach, and that new approach is to claim and it is difficult to believe they can do this with a straight face, that if we would just raise prices high enough for other countries that have effective deal makers that use negotiation and bring prices into a reasonable level, that if we could force them to pay more in England, in France, in Japan or Switzerland, that somehow American consumers would be able to pay less for those prescription drugs. That is, of course, a really phony approach, and it really demonstrates that if we had a great deal maker in this country who could negotiate fairly with prescription drug companies the way those other companies have done, those other countries have done to bring down prices for their consumers, then we wouldn't have this problem. That the President is correct. We might well save $300 billion. And we have the example that it can work in America, too, because we have a program that has been longstanding through the Veterans Administration where the prescription drugs for our veterans cost a fraction of what they do for Medicare beneficiaries. The only reason that we have not moved forward with the broader program to prevent prescription price gouging that affects drugs of all types, from diabetes, insulin, to very expensive cancer drugs, is because of the power of the pharmaceutical lobby. They have more than 2 lobbyists for every member of the House and Senate out there, and they are lobbying effectively around the clock to ensure that their government-approved monopolies are there and that they get monopoly prices, whatever the sick and dying will pay for a little relief or a few more days with their family, and they charge outrageous prices. Our Medicare beneficiaries, even if they have Part D, may often find themselves seriously financially strapped as a result of prescription price gouging. We could and should do something about it. This committee has been reluctant to even hold a hearing, though I have been asking for such hearings for about 3 years, and we need to explore this problem. The least we could do is the amendment that Ms. Chu is offering, which is to have a study so that when we have a Congress next year that really wants to protect seniors, wants to protect people of all ages who are being gouged by prescription drug cost, that we will have the data and the facts to provide them the relief that they deserve. So though I never intended that this approach would be combined with the narrow bill I have, I appreciate Ms. Chu's leadership, and we need to find a way to address what is one of the most serious health care problems we have today, and that is the lack of access to spiraling cost of prescription drugs and these government-approved monopolies that have no restraint of any kind when it comes to Medicare. I yield back.